Hello YouTubers, and welcome to this series on calculators and maths. Now what I aim to do in this series is basically go through a good overview, review and tutorials on the current graphing calculators. What I hope to do is help you understand which calculator could be best for you that will fulfill the functionality but yet understand the potential learning curve involved in that calculator. There are many folks out there who are perhaps sitting with, let's say, a Texas Instruments 83 or 84 who have got accustomed to it and it serves their needs perfectly. And then perhaps they kind of now look at something like the Texas Instruments Inspire CX or CX CAS, and they think, wow, that'd be a great machine to have. And yes, it's a great machine. It is very powerful and it can do a lot for you. However, the learning curve on one of these devices can be very high. And I've seen many reports who folks have gone from one of these to one of these, and their comment is, well, the TI-84 is still my favorite and I end up using this more. And this potentially ends up being left on the shelf. Another potential issue with calculators like this one is because they've got a reasonably powerful processor inside and color screens, it has a rechargeable lithium-ion battery. And that only provides you with 100 hours of use, whereas these of penlight batteries can last for months if not years. In the short time that I've had this, in a few months, I've not used it much at all, but you have to, even just leaving it on a shelf will require a recharge every now and then. And if you are using this fairly heavily, you'll need to recharge it probably every single week. So there's a risk that you could pick this up, go to an exam, and it might not be running for you. So that's something to be wary of, and that's what I aim to highlight through this series of reviews. Now, as you saw from the introduction, I've got a range of calculators from Casio, Texas Instruments, and Hewlett-Packard. Now, Hewlett-Packard, their kind of latest offering to date has been the 50G. And this is actually one of the cheaper devices amongst all of these. It's around the kind of $70 mark. And yet, it is one of the more powerful ones, in fact. It's got reverse Polish notation, which for those of you who haven't used it before will probably seem very quirky, but for those who have discovered the power of entering and working with RPN, it can be a very powerful device, especially for more advanced scientific and engineering work. So we're certainly going to take a closer look at this in time to come. And as it so happens, HP have literally just in the last few days released the HP Prime. So I'll have the HP Prime literally in about 2 days time, and as soon as that arrives, we'll do a quick overview as well. Now, the goal for today's initial introduction video is basically just to give a quick overview of these calculators. I've not yet seen any kind of video which gives a side-by-side of all of these together, powered on, and how to start entering a simple equation or doing simple arithmetic. So what I aim to do is basically power them on, show you entering a simple piece of arithmetic to see how it's displayed on each of them. Believe it or not, that if I had to hand you, if someone is not used to one of these types of calculators and I handed a calculator to you and said, please do the square root of 253, many people, after powering one of these on, wouldn't know how to do that. Just doing simple arithmetic, once you've got this kind of menu system put in your face, and trying to navigate around one of these can be a challenge. So we'll power it on, we'll enter a simple piece of arithmetic, and then we'll also do some very basic graphing just to see, so you can see what they look like when they're producing a graph. As we go on through these videos, what I aim to do is get specific mathematical problems where they relate to trigonometry, geometry, graphing, algebra, and then put each calculator through its pace to see how easy it is to use and how each of them perform and whether it has the functionality. Because ultimately, I think if you are looking to buy a calculator, for one, you want to make sure that it can fulfill the functionality that you require. Once it does that, what is the learning curve to be able to use the calculator properly? And then you can get down to things like price and ergonomics. The ergonomics we'll cover off now as well, in terms of silly things like what the font looks like on the screen. Do you have to press numerous shift buttons to try and get to, say, pi or parentheses on the keyboard? Are the keys easy to use? And literally, as I said, the font and the display of the operational signs, what that looks like. Now, if you do want to support these videos, then certainly I've got a link down below where you can go and purchase these calculators on my Amazon store. But let's get down to the bench and have a closer look. Right, so before we take a closer look, let's just quickly have a quick swoop over these to see what models are here and their pricing. So to start off with, so this one is a little red herring I've thrown in here, and this is the Texas Instruments TI-30XS. The reason I've thrown this in here is that I want to demonstrate that you need to understand what the functionality, because if you only need a scientific calculator with some advanced features, you're better off going with something like this than moving up to an advanced graphing calculator. This calculator currently on Amazon sells for about $15. The bigger brother to this, the 36 Pro, costs $19, and the 36 Pro can do integration and differentiation. Then we move to the TI-84 Plus. This one currently sells for $121. We then have the TI-89 Titanium, and the 89 Titanium goes for $135. We then have the Casio FX-9860GII, and this currently sells for $72. We then have its kind of bigger brother in color, the Prizm. It's known as the Prizm FX-CG10. This currently sells for $99. There is another version, there is the FX-CG10, which sells for $250. But apparently this one is specifically for North America, because there are some, apparently the only thing taken out of this one is something to do with editing pictures, which isn't allowed in certain exams. So that's why this one's done specifically for North America. We then get to the Texas Instruments Inspire CX. Now the plain CX without the CAS sells for $124. This version with the CAS sells for $137. We then have the HP 50G, and that currently sells for about $87. So again, $87 for what is a very powerful machine is a great price. However, it doesn't have the greatest support in the States in terms of the school curriculum and perhaps the college curriculum. And I said the best way to use this is in RPN mode, which is very different from what most people are used to. So that's why perhaps its price point is different. Now the empty space here soon will be filled by the HP Prime, as I said. And HP, I think, are hoping to kind of shake up the calculator market with that. It's got a touch color screen and apparently is a lot easier to use, but I say we'll make that judgment call once it's arrived and we can have a quick look at it. Right, just a further note on the bigger brother of this, which is due to arrive, the HP Prime. The current price on Amazon is $150. And there, a little bit of interest is that in the last couple of weeks since it's been released, it started off on Amazon apparently around the 120 mark. I've seen on one of the comments on there that it was then the person was complaining because it went up to 130, and I ended up paying over 150. So it'll be interesting to see where the price point kind of settles for the HP Prime and if it's really worth the money. The money, I say, is an interesting point because, as you know, these range in price from, let's say, $70 odd right up to, let's say, the $150 mark. And I would be very wary on purely basing your buying one of these just based on price, because if you go for a cheaper calculator yet it's more difficult to use and it has perhaps too much functionality, then you might come unstuck. So you certainly want to aim for the calculator which has the functionality that you require and the ease of use, if you can get that in the same package. And that's what we kind of hope to kind of reveal as we certainly go through these and see what they can and can't do. Right, so the first one we'll have a quick closer look at is the TI-84 Plus. Now, this calculator plus its earlier brother, the TI-83, which is apparently very similar, have formed a backbone, I think, of the kind of more contemporary graphing calculators. They are very popular. There's a lot of training courses available on them, and training courses in particular can be quite handy because when you first get one of these into your hands, sometimes the instructions aren't the best, and I've in fact gone invested in some DVDs and to watch, trying to get me started in terms of how to operate these calculators. So the 84 is great there, but what I want to highlight again is that If you just merely want a calculator to do some algebra and scientific work, then this TI-30XS has probably got a better display and far easier to use than even the 84. Even though the 84, certainly once folks get to use it, will find it's a very powerful graphing calculator, and the ease of use, once you get used to it, is fine. But if you're not going to be using the graphing, then you may certainly find something as simple as this TI-30XS is the way to go. And again, we'll demonstrate once we start entering something on them, doing a simple bit of arithmetic, you can see the display and the way they work. Let's just have a closer look at this first. So here we go. Here's just a little closer view of the calculator itself in terms of the screen, the keys, and the layout. Most of these calculators, you're going to realize, and that's one of the things we want to pick up, is that they will have multiple functions assigned to the keys and then within the menu system to get the full use out of them. Most of these calculators, I'm going to say the quality and the feel is very good in the hand. Just about all of these calculators, I don't think with any exception, will have some kind of I/O where you can connect them to a computer and either upgrade firmware or in particular download applications or upload work to your computer. This one comes with this cover which slips on the back or the front. It gives it good protection. This one, and what I want to note also with these, is this one is run off, as you can see, 4 AAA batteries, and as I said, that might be a part of a critical decision to you. Once you start getting up to some of the more advanced color screen calculators and they've got built-in lithium-ion batteries, one wants to understand what their longevity is and whether you could be caught, if you're caught in an exam, you get to an exam and you realize that your lithium battery is flat and you don't have time to charge it, you could be really stuck. Whereas if your batteries were flat in one of these, you could probably nip out, buy some batteries, throw them in, and you're up and running. And I say in particular with the other ones where the battery life is not long, that is a potential risk. If we just quickly power this machine on, it comes up with it's kind of home screen. It's very simple right here. You can start entering some very basic arithmetic and start doing sums and actually get answers out of the calculator fairly quickly. It does have a screen with applications on. It's got a very simple kind of line display. It doesn't have these fancy graphical desktop as the others do. And you can go through and choose what specific application you want. If you want to quit out of that, then here it's second function, quit, and you're back to your main working screen. Right, next we have the TI-89 Titanium. Now the Titanium model has basically got built-in applications and a kind of graphical desktop, if you will, or menu system. The standard TI-89 doesn't have the built-in applications, but you can download them at a later point in time, and it's got a more list-driven menu system as opposed to the graphics. This has got, again, a back cover which slips off onto the front for protection. It does have nice rubber to grip the surface that you're working on. And this as well runs off AAA batteries. It also has a backup battery as well. It also has the same I/O ports to connect it to a PC. Here's just a quick look at the actual physical layout and the keys. And as you can see, you've got different functions. You've got a second function and a green key here to get to the multiple function on the keys themselves. Right, we'll power this one on. And as you can see, you are presented with this kind of graphical desktop where you're going to get to your different applications. And this is where things can get confusing. When you just want to, if you want to power on a calculator and do some basic arithmetic, you may not know where to go to. And this has got a built-in calendar. It is a very powerful machine. But if we just want to get and do some basic arithmetic, we go over here. And then it's got this kind of command line where you can start entering and then executing some basic arithmetic and obviously more advanced arithmetic. And it kind of stacks things. Most of these obviously have like a stack where you can build up and see all your previous work and go and edit it. So if I do again some basic work, you can go and see what it looks like. Right, next we have the Casio FX-9860GII. This is still a monochrome calculator. Again, a nice feel, nice layout, nice display. I'm going to give you some of my kind of subjective views as I have these in my hands, and again that may change over time, and for different folks they're going to have their own point of view, but this certainly in terms of the ergonomics and the layouts and the feel of the keys and the buttons and ease of use initially seems like a very nice calculator. It does come with a back cover which again slides over the front like the others do. It does have rubber feet to actually hold it firmly on the area you're working on. And again, if we go into the back, this one is powered by 4 AAA batteries. Again, like the others, it does have connectivity, so connected up to a PC. Again, just for a closer look at this beast. The navigation key, I'll just point out here, is this disc-like rather than the individual buttons, and I perhaps prefer the individual buttons because you've got more certainty in terms of when you're trying to navigate around when you're hitting a button as opposed to hitting something like a disc like this. But as I said, at the moment this one works fairly well. Right, we'll power this one up. And again, you're presented with a kind of graphical home or main menu system, where again, if you just were hoping to do some basic arithmetic and you first turn this on, it might be a little intimidating. But if we go to the math or run math over here and enter execute that, we then get to a screen where we can start entering, and as you can see, again, it stacks things up. And I must say, we'll see again as we go through these, the font and the actual operational signs on these are displayed very nicely. It's a nice clear display to look at. It does also have a backlight. So over here there's a shift function for a backlight, and although you can't see it, it's on at the moment. I'll switch it off. And here I've switched off the lights just to give you a better demonstration of the backlight. And there you go. I must say, it really lights up nicely, not too many hot spots. It kind of evenly lights the display so you can see it if it happens to be dark while you're working. Right, the next machine is the Casio FX-CG10. Now this, I'll just put the previous one side by side. The functionality and layout is virtually identical. So as we get to use these, we'll understand functionally whether there's any differences between the two. But if you are transitioning between the two, or it may be a choice of basically just having a color screen, then this one is certainly, they're very similar in the layout and their functionality. You do see more functionality on the graphing on the CG10, but again, we'll compare that once we get into the more in-depth reviews. Right, so here it is. It must say it does have a nice solid feel to it. It's kind of got this aluminium, brushed aluminium finish around the side. Again, a plastic case. This time it doesn't kind of slide off, it clips off. It goes onto the front to protect it. Again, the connectivity. This one also has the batteries in it, so that's nice. Again, I've certainly, in the time that I've had it, not had any issue with the battery life, so it seems to be doing very well. Now there's something I want to note. You'll see as I pull it out, it's switched on, and it was something I was going to note about this calculator. I often find that switching this on is very easy. It can be switched on accidentally by the button over here very simply. Right, and just a closer look at the actual layout of the beast itself. The one thing to note, I must say, these keys are very easy to get to, very easy to read, nice large font on them. Right, we'll just power this one up so we can see what you're presented with, and as you can see now you get the color menu system on this one. And again, if you're hoping to just switch this on and start using it, it can be a little confusing. If we go up to, again, the same menu system over there, we execute that. You're then presented with a screen where you can do some basic arithmetic. And here again, I must say the fonts on this and the text are very easy to read and easy on the eye. Right, now we get to the TI Texas Instruments Inspire CX CAS, or computer algebraic system. So this is a very powerful device. I mean, this, you can, besides just solving problems, this can actually step through the solution to a problem as well. I know that, like for instance, as I said, some people who are perhaps sitting with an 89 or an 84 step up to this beautiful machine. but the layout and the use of this machine is very different to the previous models. And again, just my personal initial input, like some of the keys on this, when we take a closer look, it's nice that they've got the whole alphabet laid out so you don't have to shift. There's far less secondary functions on these keys because it's laid out in the menu system. Some of the keys we'll note as we get closer, these operational keys have got like two functions. You've got to push either side and they're quite small. So again, not as friendly as some of the bigger keys of the other machines, but of course you don't have a choice. If this has the functionality and what you want, then that's what you've got to live with. It has again on the back a sliding cover. It, I say again, it does feel like a nice quality machine in the hand. Just to note, this one does have the lithium battery inside it as noted, and the battery life as quoted is 100 hours, but as I said, I've not used this too much yet. I've probably used this about 5 or 6 times, only for about 5 to 10 minutes at a time, and in the 3 months I've had it, I've had to recharge it about 3 times. So I think even if it's sitting on the shelf, you run the risk that you could pick it up if you haven't used it for a while and you find that the battery's flat. Now you can get replacement batteries. I'm not sure if you can get ones with larger capacity, but that might be something to look into. Again, then it's got your connectivity on the top. Here is a quick closer look at the Inspire. Right, and we'll just power this beast on. It's a simple button over there. Now as you can see, it started straight up, so if you've been using it recently, it has this mode where it starts up straight away, but if you've actually restarted or it's starting from afresh, it actually takes quite a while to boot because it is basically a mini computer. So again, it presents you with this color menu system. This does have this pointer where you can actually, in your graphing, it's a touch sensitive pad. As you can see, I can move that pointer around, or you can use it to navigate by pushing the sides of it. I must say, this is new to me, and I'm still getting used to the fact of sometimes having to navigate with this little pad around the menu systems, but of course you can use the push points as well. So if we want to go and calculate something, we just enter on that. You get presented with this kind of scratch pad area, and we can do some basic arithmetic. And again, what I want you to note is as we kind of go through this and do the kind of sample arithmetic, like for instance, this one has got a dot as opposed to an X for the multiplication. And you can see it did a / for the divide and represents it like that. So these are the small things you might just want to know. But as I said, if this machine has the functionality that you need, then that's what you live with, obviously. But it may be something to think about if you come down to a couple of machines, which could be your choice. What is the input like, inputting, setting them up, using them, and the font and the display. Right, so now we get to the HP 50G, and I expect for many folks is the kind of black sheep of the family. I used to use HP calculators when I was at college, and I used to use RPN, but I haven't used RPN for a long time. So again, it's taken me a little while to get used to it, but once you do get used to it, it can be a very powerful way of working through complex mathematics. Now, this machine, it's got, again, a nice feel to it. I will say HP do have these sloped buttons on the actual calculator itself. They can, in some of their machines, give a nice feel. They do kind of get a nice positive feel when you push them, but they are perhaps a little bit smaller than the other ones. But again, that may come down to personal choice. It's got a nice easy navigation over here on these buttons. The HP doesn't have a slide-on cover like the others. It comes with a little pouch that you actually put it in. So certainly a nice bit of protection. Some people may see that as a bit fiddly because you have to have it somewhere on the side, where the others have got a case that you slip down and is kept there and out of the way. Now the HP, again, if we have a look at the batteries, is down to 4 AAA batteries and a backup battery in the back as well. It does have connectivity in the top, and it has an SD card slot in the bottom. And here is a quick closer look at the 50G. Right, we'll power this little beast on. And this again has an application screen where you can pick different applications off a more kind of traditional menu system. It's got here its main work screen where you can enter terms and do some mathematics. So if we just say simply 9 times 8, you'll see it come down there. I execute it. It puts that on the stack and you've got your answer over there. 8 minus 6, enter. Now this is in its algebraic mode. You can see it says ALG over here. If we go into RPN mode, which I'll demonstrate a little later, then things work a little differently. The one thing also to note on these calculators is the modes that they are in. You can obviously set these up to display different number notation for degrees, radian, and the one thing you certainly do want to do before you start doing any calculations is to make sure you've got all your mode settings correct, because that can obviously affect the output and could really throw you and waste your time when you're doing calculations. So the HP has got the menu system down below, obviously graphing, but we'll have a closer look at that once we get down to the example. Right, so as a quick demonstration of all these calculators, what we're going to do is just enter this kind of simple arithmetic over here to see what it's like trying to enter it, because as I said, in some cases, like for instance, just entering pi may be a shifted function or the parentheses. And as I said, if you do in cases you may not have a choice, you may have a calculator where you're going to have to do that because it's at the right price point, functionality and ease of use. But if you did have choice, those may be considerations. We'll see also how they display on the screens. We'll then also go through graphing these functions or equations over here. Now, the reason I've got the TI-30XS over here is because I just want to demonstrate that if you just need a scientific calculator with a nice display, then this may be your go-to machine, because as you'll see, let's say the 30XS, and if I had to bring in the TI-84, we will compare what the displays look like across these with entering that arithmetic to see how friendly they look or how easy it is to enter. And you'll often find that this little beast for scientific work and basic work is brilliant. If you want some more advanced work, then certainly you can move up to the 36 Pro, which will even do calculus as well. I mean, even something like this basic Casio will do calculus and do basic solving of equations as well. So that's certainly something to look into if you don't need graphing. But anyway, let's get down and enter it on this beast. Right, so let's get on with the calculation. I've got it so hopefully you get as close to the screen as possible, but you can still see what's going on with the actual key input as well. Right, so we start off. So it's 2 pi squared minus 17. That is all over. So as you can see, I've gone and entered this and I've made my first mistake. So I've got to clear. So at 17, I need to go back, very easy to use in navigation, parentheses, close the parentheses, and that is all going over 5 plus the square root of 11. So there you go. Then to get out to the side, because we finished inside there, we cursor out, we go plus, open parentheses, 13 divided by 2.5, close, and we're multiplying that by 7. So the things to note here is obviously that with this kind of sum, and the reason I've chosen it is for the length, it shows most of, if not all of the operational signs, plus, minus, multiplication, also a numerator denominator situation, something like pi, a square, and a square root. So this is what it looks like. Note, so the minuses look like minuses, we've got a plus. The division over here looks like a normal division sign, and the multiplication, as opposed to a normal X, is a star for multiplication on this device. So just something to highlight. We're going to enter on that. And there we go, we come to our answer 36.729. I'll pull you a little bit closer into the display so you can see that. So there you go, just so you can see what it actually looks like on the display. I must say, a very simple entry. It looks nice as you'd perhaps write it in a textbook with easy execution, but I say, note the size of the display, how things shift out, and what the font looks like. Right now we have the TI-84 Plus, so we'll go through the same exercise. Just clear the screen. To pi, which is a second function over there, squared minus 17. Obviously close the parentheses. And now we don't have the kind of numerator denominator button that we do on the other calculator, so we just have to say divide, and then because it isn't underneath as in a denominator, what we need to do then again is add parentheses and go 5 plus square root of 11, come out and close the parentheses, and then we're going plus open 13 divided by 2.5, close, and then multiply that by 7. So again, I must say these keys are nice and easy to use. I'll bring you in a little closer also so you can see the font. I know there's a bit of glare on the screen there, but as you can see, things tend to shuffle out. I pushed the enter there for the answer, and as you can see, 36, we've got the right answer. But it displays very differently to, let's say, the TI-30XS. It doesn't quite have the kind of textbook entry of the XS, but of course, this is a far more powerful machine. It's got far more functionality. But just so you can see what it actually displays like, I'll bring you in a little bit closer. So here we go, that's the problem we entered. Again, it doesn't have the kind of nice display where it falls underneath as a denominator. The division is a / plus divide by 2.5, and the multiplication is a star. Just to highlight those things, and there we go, the answer again. So right now it's time for the TI-89 Titanium. Same thing again. It comes up obviously with the graphical menu, so we're going to go into the home screen to do the basic calculation. We've got the command line. Open parentheses, we're going to go 2 pi, and that's squared, and in this case we have like a little copy to do the exponent, minus 17. We close the parentheses on that, and then we're going to divide by, and of course we need, because it's not doing the denominator thing, we have to put in brackets again, or parentheses, 5 plus, and then the square root of 11, and it's put in a parentheses there, so we're going to close that and close again, and then we're going plus, open parentheses, 13 divided by 2.5, close, multiplied by 7. Enter on that, and again we get our answer of 36.7294. And as you can see, once you've gone and entered it in there, you then get a more friendly display. So let's have a closer look at that. Right, so as you can see, once you've kind of executed, once you've gone and kind of entered longhand the kind of method down here, which is on the command line, and if we go back and have a look, you can see the actual what I've had to enter to get this piece of arithmetic incorrectly. You can see that it's come out and it's displayed it in a little more friendly format. On this side, as opposed to where it would show a division sign, it's decided to kind of have a numerator, denominator, and then the dot for the multiplication for the 7, and then it comes up with the answer. Right, we're now onto the Casio FX-9860GII. Same exercise again, we power it on. I'll just delete, clear everything. So we've got a clean working area. And same again, I'm going to try this time enter, because it does have a numerator and denominator button, so in theory should be able to go straight ahead and enter 2 pi, and that's going to be squared minus 17, and that so here I have to note that obviously I am taking it over everything, so we'll just backspace or delete that, come back. So something to note about these, how easy it is and nice it is to be able to go back and edit if you do make a mistake. So we're going to take that all over 5 plus the square root of 11. Need to come out of that now and then say plus, open brackets, 13, divide by 2.5, close, multiply by 7, and then execute that, and we get our answer. So again, the big thing I'm going to show you as we zoom in is the font and the ease of use of this calculator. Right, so here we go. You can clearly see this has really got a nice big display. So it's one of the calculators so far where everything is kind of fitting the screen really nicely. Nice, easy keyboard to use, buttons. The actual operational signs you can see display as they would, the division, the multiplication. So at this point in time, my subjective point of view would be that if you're going to pick up one of these graphing calculators and just do some basic calculations, this one, the ergonomics and the ease of use to me is the best. I'm going to say though that certainly if you're in North America and part of the school system and curriculum, then you probably don't have much choice because the Casios aren't really used, and there's a lot more of the educational system, tutorials, teaching material, and the teachers themselves are using the Texas Instruments. So you perhaps are going to be left out in the cold, but somewhere else in the world perhaps this might be a serious consideration, because at this point in time for me this one certainly is easy to use. Right, so now we're moving on to the Casio FX-CG10, or also known as the Prizm. Something just to note, and of course this is always a challenge for me when I'm filming, is obviously trying to get a reasonably good quality view of things, and reflections and light can be a challenge for me. But that may also be something you want to note, that these calculators with the kind of the color displays and the shiny tops can catch the light. I mean, if I put the TI-89 here, you can see with a matte display it's far easier. You don't get that reflection like you do with one of these. Once you power one of these on and the display comes up, that's perhaps not such a huge issue, but just something to be aware of. Right, so let's power this beast on and do the same. Bang, it powers on very quickly. Let's just delete that. And again, one of the things that we will certainly note as we get close into reviews is you want to make sure that these are in the right mode for what you're working with, as I mentioned before, and to see how clearly the calculators actually note what mode it's in, instead of you having to go into a setup or mode button to see how it is set up. Right, so here again we'll start off brackets, so we've got 2 second function pi, and that is squared minus 17, close brackets, and again we can go down to the denominator, 5 plus the square root of 11. We then come out to the side using the navigation button, and we're saying plus brackets 13 divide by 2.5, close, multiplied by 7, and we execute that and we come up with our same answer again. Let's have a closer look at that. Now then, I certainly am a fan of kind of keeping it simple, and I certainly do like the monochrome displays, and as I said, this is very nice and easy to use and it displays nicely. But this display on this Casio Prism, as you can see beautifully, has got a very nice font in terms of like showing pi, the square. All the operational signs are as you'd expect them to be. So I must say, from that point of view, if you did want to go the color route and where it may add some more functionality and help in the graphing, then this again is such a nice option. But you need to understand what is being used in your school or your college, because if people are using, let's say, the Texas Instruments or something else, then you may be at a disadvantage having the Casio. But it's certainly, from doing normal arithmetic on it and the ease of use, very nice. Right, now we get to the Inspire, powered on. Up it comes, we go into its kind of calculate mode. And here we get the kind of work area. We'll just continue from here. So we go open brackets and we go 2, and then pi, there's a small pi down here with an arrow because it opens up other other constants as well that you may choose from. So we obviously then select pi squared minus 17, close the brackets, and that is all divided by, silly me, divided by, and again we're going to have to open brackets because we don't have the kind of numerator denominator, and then 5 plus the square root of 11, and we're going to come out of that, close the brackets, and all that has to be added to open brackets 13 divided by 2.5, close brackets, and multiplied by 7. And then we execute that, enter on that, and we get our answer, and I'll bring you in a little closer to have a look at this display. So there you go. You can see that after you've kind of gone and entered it on the line, it does give you a friendlier display actually once it's got it up on the command line and provided you with the actual answer. So it does look friendly. You can see the operational sign. It's got a dot for the multiplication. It does, like with the 89, the division where I wanted a normal division sign here, it goes and obviously does the numerator and denominator. Right, and then last but certainly not least, it's a turn of the HP 50G. We'll just switch it on. We'll just clear the stacks. Now, the HP has several ways of actually entering, let's say, an algebraic or an arithmetic like this. We can enter it straight on the command line, or it's actually got an equation workspace, an equation writer on it. So what I'm going to do, I'll take it into that mode and we'll enter it there. So there we go, you get this blank screen where you can kind of write it up as you normally would see it in a textbook. It has some interesting quirks which you need to get used to, but those in the long run can be quite helpful. So here we'll go 2, and there's a second function pi, and we're going to go square it, squared, and then we obviously want to come down from that, and then you use these cursors, and you can see it's kind of blocked just the pi and the square. So that means the next operation that you do is going to be just affect that, but obviously we want the next operation to affect everything. And this is quite helpful because it kind of helps you group things so that in effect you're encasing things in parentheses or giving order to things, but it just means moving around with these navigation buttons. So there we go, minus 17, and then to all of that, as opposed to the parentheses, you kind of highlight all of it and you say you're going to divide by, and it automatically goes into a numerator denominator situation, and we go 5 plus, and it's going to be the square root, which is straight off, it's not a second function, of 11. And then obviously we want to come out from that, and again the first tap you can see it, you highlight everything in this case because I want everything to be added to. And now, because I want to ensure that the next piece is properly in parenthesis, I go and add the brackets, and 13 divided by 2.5. Again, you can see it's automatically doing numerator denominator, and then it's highlighted just that piece, but I want everything obviously multiplied by 7. So as you can see, the HP does have these interesting quirks you need to get used to, but once you do, they can really help you when you're actually typing something in to format things correctly. I then push enter, and it's brought it back to the normal workspace and shown you what the actual command line would look like. So the workspace obviously makes it easy, and then you can see it here. And if I go enter, it's choosing what approximation mode, because I've got it in approximation mode. I'm going to say no. On this kind of work, the calculator on the top here has an equal where you do an approximation mode or an absolute mode. So I need to put it into the absolute mode so that I get a real answer straight out of that. And on the calculator here, you can see you can go through and set flags, and this is something we'll look at when we do a proper review and tutorial on this calculator. And it's currently in exact mode, so I'm going to check that so that it's in approximate mode. Go OK, OK. And the little symbol at the top here changes to a little squiggle near the R. And then I'm going to move up and enter on that again, so that we've got it on the command line, and execute it. And then we get our answer. So I do that just to show you there are certain things you need to get used to with this calculator. It's very powerful, but you need to kind of understand going into the modes and setting it up. But I'll bring you closer just so you can actually see the display. So here you go. As you can see, it was moaning at me too, because I went and cancelled out of the mode, and then I eventually went in and actually changed it myself. And I'll give you a quick demonstration of that again, because it brings up something on the display which can look a little bit quirky. But as you can see, in the quirkiness I'm pointing to is that you can see there's a dot after each of the numbers, that it's a number and that's the decimal point. So here we go. So it's 2, and you see times pi squared minus 17. It's all displayed nicely. You've got your operational signs. You can see the multiplication there is a dot. But let's just quickly go to RPN mode just to demonstrate how that works. You can see by default it's in algebraic. I'm going to go into the mode screen. You can see it shows algebraic. We're going to choose and go to RPN, reverse Polish notation. OK. Come out of that, and you can see it doesn't show you anything to say you're in RPN. It just removes that algebraic, because this in theory, or in practice actually, is the mode that the HP is designed to be worked in. It's got the algebraic mode to make it a more easier transition from things like the Casios or the Texas Instruments machines. But here now we have the concept of a stack. You can see the numbers on the side here. So you can't simply on the keyboard, and I'll just show you the keyboard. So I've gone and cleared the stack just to make it easy. But if I repeat that operation, try and go 9 times, it starts moaning at us. You can't just go 9 times 9. It says too few arguments. And that's because you need to put the numbers that you're working with on the stack and then tell it the operation that you're going to do. So the on button acts as a cancel or clear once the machine's on. So if I've got the 9 on the stack, I then have to go 9, push enter to put another 9 on the stack, and then say I want to multiply. And as you can see, you then get the answer 81. The other way to do it would be to go 9, enter, and then I could just go 9 times, a quicker way to do it. But by having the answers on the stack, you've then got the answer ready to do another operation. I could say, well then, right, I want to subtract 6. So I'll go 6, I go enter and then go minus, I get your answer. Or I could go 6 minus straight away and get the answer. You can also, though it's not easily shown here, if you want to work with a previous number on the stack, you can, this button over here, the right hand direction key, will flip the things on the stack so that you can change things. So it's a very different way to working, and most folks who aren't accustomed to this will turn their noses up. But if you do bear with it, and the people who kind of do engineering and more advanced maths who use RPN swear by it, because it is very, very handy. But I say, that is the one quirk of the Hewlett-Packard. It does have a computer algebraic system. So as we get into the review on this one, you'll see how powerful it is. It's got lots of manipulation. It's got units. It's got loads of constants built in. I'll just quickly show you some of the, for instance, electronics. It's got built-in formulas that you can use. So on this we've got an apps button which you can go to, and first of all I'll just show you, for instance, it's got, there's loads of functions here, but you've got a constants library you can go to, and you've just got loads of various constants you can go and look up and work with. If we come out of that and I go in again and go down, I'll go the other way up, you've got an equation library. If you enter on that, I've set this up now to put the menus on the soft bar at the bottom here. If you didn't do that, you would still get the display coming up at the top, but at the top here it says equation library. You can go into that, go into it again, and then it comes up and you can see, for instance, you've got electricity here. You've got loads, and within some of these they've even got diagrams to give you an idea of what you're working with. So if I enter on electricity, you've got Coulomb's law, Ohm's law, voltage dividers, current dividers, wire resistance. You've got loads. And just going to, let's say, simple Ohm's law, you enter on that, it'll actually give the equation. Now you can go and individually enter the variables, and let's say in theory you should obviously know how to manipulate an equation, but on this, if you're doing a quick bit of maths and you could have a complex equation here, I could go and enter the variables for V and I and ask it to solve for R, and it'll go and solve for R for me without me having to manipulate the equation. So certainly a very powerful little beast. Right, so I hope you found that of use. Because time's running out for this video, I suggest if you do want to go and kind of have a look at the different displays and how they work, you can always go back into the video and do a comparison of how the actual displays show a simple arithmetic being entered in. The graphing, what I'm going to do a part 2 to this video now, so that we can just literally do a quick overview of how to enter the equations and what they look like in a graphing mode. This series of videos, basically, as I said, is going to go through a structured format of having a mathematical problem and then solving it across all of the calculators to see how well they do it. And once I've gone through that process with some kind of through the different areas of mathematics, I'll then do individual reviews and tutorials on each of the calculators, and from there we'll get a greater understanding of how they work, their pros and their cons, and perhaps which one is the best to go for. But if you do want to subscribe to the channel, then certainly do. I'll put something over here. And if you do want to support what I'm doing, then certainly do consider purchasing your calculator from my Amazon store. All of these are listed in the store below. Thanks very much, and I'll catch you soon for the next video. Cheers.